Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user Throwaway My Sister Sucks. Am I the a-hole for blowing up at my sister because her husband's behavior is not my fault? I, 26 female, live in a small town with a lot of family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, basically everyone related to me lives here. My sister Lilia, 28 female, married her husband Sean, 31 male, last year. I don't know him very well, but I don't have a problem with him either. Now, every other weekend, my mom will host a party type thing for the whole family. There's food, decorations, music, etc. Everyone has a blast. And a few months ago, my sister started acting kind of strange at these parties. Her husband isn't a very social person from what I can tell. He usually stands off to the side, sometimes without food. Lilia started making comments, usually to our immediate family, but sometimes to anyone who'll listen, about how Sean thinks the decorations look tacky, or Sean thinks the music is too loud. At first, it was basically harmless, but the comments got worse and worse. She started saying things like that outside of family. The weekend before last, she made small talk for a while before saying, Sean doesn't look like he's having a good time. I don't think he likes the food very much. I can't really blame him. He doesn't usually eat at low-class restaurants like yours. Her comments always pissed me off, but this pushed me pretty hard. My mom works really hard to make delicious food for these parties. She's a chef at Olive Garden. I guess my mom could tell I was getting upset, so she pulled me aside and told me not to say anything to Lilia, that it wasn't a big deal, stuff like that. I respected her wishes, even though I really wanted to stand up for her. Now to the issue. Last week, Lilia called and said Sean's best friend is getting married. I'm a wedding planner, and she wants me to plan the wedding. I said, sure. So this weekend, Sean's best friend and his fiancée had a major joint bachelor and bachelorette party. Lilia is a bridesmaid. She invited me to come along so I could meet the bride and groom and probably officially become their wedding planner. When I arrived at the club, Lilia immediately grabbed my wrist and pulled me to the bathroom. She said, Sean isn't happy. No one will take you seriously as a wedding planner if you dress like a floozy. You embarrassed him. And now, the groom will blame him for recommending a crappy planner. I had enough of her at that point. It felt like she was just using Sean as an excuse to voice her own opinions. I said, if Sean thinks I'm a crappy wedding planner for dressing normally for a damn club, he can get, the groom, a new wedding planner. I walked out and went home. Am I the a-hole? No, OP, you're not the a-hole, and I have to say, Sean has got to be one of the best crap talkers of all time. He says all this crap about everything, decorations, food, the way people dress. However, he's never opened his mouth. It's either that or your sister is just using him as a scapegoat, or not even that, as a straw man to voice whatever she wants to say about people without looking bad. I get the impression it's the latter and your sister sucks. I think you should have a conversation with your brother-in-law and ask him, hey, how come you don't like the way I dress? And see what happens. But I know you're not the a-hole. I have the impression Sean isn't the a-hole. I think your sister is. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. And now let's check out the community comments. Savina the White says, not the a-hole. Your sister sounds exhausting and rude. It also sounds like she has a ridiculous number of insecurities. Has anyone actually ever discussed any of the issues with Sean? Because it's entirely possible your sister is projecting those insecurities into criticism she thinks he might have. Be a rebel. Every time your sister says something rude that Sean thinks, walk up to Sean and politely ask if it's true. If your sister panics, then you know she's making it up. I wouldn't touch the wedding planning job with a 10-meter pole if your sister will be involved in any way. That's a truckload of drama you don't need in your life. India O. Jones says, info, is Sean like actually saying this stuff? I'm half convinced your sister is moving him around weekend at Bernie style. If all he does is sit in the corner at family parties and not saying much of anything, I'd A, check for a pulse, and B, start talking to him directly. And Opie responds, I've never heard him actually say any of this stuff. I'm going to talk to him at the next family party, presumably after my sister makes another rude comment, and see if he knows what the hell I'm talking about. Alice the cat says, I have an awful feeling Sean isn't the one who has these thoughts and feelings, but that your sister is finding a way to express her pure bitchiness by passing it off as Sean said. Has Sean ever heard her say any of these things? Is he able to stick up for himself, to deny saying them, or even to say, yeah, I do feel that way, etc.? Your sister is a see you next Tuesday, sorry. Go low to no contact. No one needs that negativity in their lives. Your family may want to keep the peace, but you are under no obligation to do so. Heart. Opie, please wear the flooziest thing you can to the next family get-together. Find the cheapest pizza shop and order all the food from there and get the tackiest looking decor you can find. Smiley face. Petty Queen at heart here. And Throwaway Numbers says, not the a-hole. Sounds like a Lilia problem. In the remote possibility that all this is coming from Sean, there's two problems. One, he's a rude jackass. Two, he needs to learn how to speak for himself. I wonder how it would go if someone asked him about some of his opinions that his wife is spreading for him. Alright, so the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole, and OP is going to talk to Sean about this the next chance she gets. So let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Okay, here's the update. Thank you everyone for your great comments and advice. I ended up inviting Sean and Lilia out to lunch. Lilia was still a little upset that I had dressed like a floozy at the club, but mostly things went fine. Before we left, I asked Sean if he thought my outfit at the club was inappropriate. He said no. Then I asked if he thought my mother's cooking was bad. He said no again. This time he looked more confused. Before I could ask him about another comment, Lilia grabbed his arm and pulled him up. She said they had to go. Sean looked even more confused and told Lilia he wanted to hear what I was going to ask next. She looked visibly angry, and after I asked him if he thought the decorations were tacky, Lilia said, if you're not coming, I'm leaving without you. And she ran to her car before either of us could stop her. Sean was really confused now and asked why I thought he didn't like the food, etc. I told him the whole story of how Lilia was telling me and my immediate family that he was saying rude things. He looked completely shocked now. He said he never said any of those things and that he thinks the parties are wonderful. He explained he's just a little antisocial and gets nervous around people he doesn't know well, which I totally get. He apologized if anything he did was offensive, but I said there was no need for an apology. I gave him a ride home. Lilia took off with their car. When we got there, my sister's car wasn't in the driveway. I went to my mom's house next to drop off some stuff I had for her in the car. When I got there, Lilia's car was parked outside. She was sitting in the dining table crying, and my mom was doing her best to comfort her. When she saw me, she started crying even harder. I sat down and waited until she could calm down. When she finally did, I gently asked why she was saying all those things. Lilia said, I don't know, to make you hate him, I guess. My mom asked why she wanted us to hate him. She kept replying to our questions with, I don't know, before admitting the truth. She said she'd been feeling jealous since our brother Eric got married. She felt like he was getting all the attention, especially when his wife announced her pregnancy. She also said Eric was always the golden child growing up and she wanted people to notice her just this once. Lily is the oldest, Eric is the middle child. I never thought he was the golden child. In fact, Lilia seemed to be favored over him, but maybe I was too wrapped up in my own stuff to notice. My sister decided to stir up some drama to get the attention back on her. She used Sean because no one in the family knew him very well, and it was easy because he doesn't interact with a lot of people. She claims she wanted the attention so badly, even if it was negative. She wanted to see how far we'd let her go before one of us snapped. After a long talk, she promised never to do anything like this again and admitted she mostly did this out of resentment toward Eric for always stealing the spotlight. My mom promised to pay more attention to her and she apologized if she ever made Lilia feel like Eric was better than her. Our mom just wants to have a good relationship with Lilia while she's struggling with cancer. I also want to be there for her in case the worst were to happen to our mom. If the situation were different, the outcome would be different too. My mom wants all of us to be there for her as a family. If I went low contact, it would really hurt my mom and cause other damage to the family. I also think this is just Lilia's way of dealing with the grief of possibly losing our mom. It doesn't excuse her behavior, of course, but I can't go low contact when she needs me. Anyway, we all hugged it out. Earlier tonight, Lilia called me and said she and Sean are going to try couples therapy and she's going to get individual therapy for herself. I said I was happy for her and she can come to me if she ever needs anything. My sister has been my best friend since I was born. That's not something I want to throw away over one incident. Yes, it was wrong. Yes, I am angry at her. Yes, it will take a long time for me to trust her again, but I still love her. She has done so much for me, punched someone who was bullying me in the face, worked double shifts to help with my tuition, never once left my side when I suspected my ex was stalking me, and that's just to name a few. I don't think she's a terrible person. I think she screwed up out of fear of our mom and the trauma of losing our dad. He died in an accident years ago. The jealousy part could also be true. She's always been a very jealous person. It will take time for me to forgive her, but I think we can work things out. I spoke with my mom and she's also angry at Lilia, of course, but she wants to keep the peace at least until her time comes. She said conspiratorially, at the next party, Sean's going to pull a Lilia said on her. She was half joking, though it would be funny if it really happened. I spoke to Sean too. He's the angriest out of us, but he said he loves her and is going to try to work things out. They start couples therapy on Saturday and Lilia starts individual therapy tomorrow. I wished him the best. Well, OP, for all the good things your sister has done to you, what she did to her husband is completely idiotic. And all because she just wanted a little attention or she didn't want to lose the spotlight to her brother who got married and is having a baby. Here's what I think. Eric was never the golden child. I think she was the one that got the most attention, and now that her brother got married and had a baby, people congratulated him or celebrated him, and she didn't like that. So she decided to stir up all this drama using her husband to get back into it. Now, here's the thing that bugs me. Your sister is the one that has all these issues. She's the one that was lying and did all this crap. But her husband has to go to therapy because of that? I'd say before couples counseling, she needs to go to individual therapy, take ownership and accountability of what she's doing, and then maybe go to counseling together. Anyways, OP, here's wishing you the best in the future. Take care. And now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user Throwaway44484. Am I the A-hole for calling off my wedding because my fiance wanted to invite her ex? My fiance wanted to invite an ex to our wedding. From what I know, he was an a-hole who always put her down and told her that he was the best she could ever do. Naturally, I asked her why the hell that she want him at our wedding. She said she wanted to shove it in his face that she did amazingly for herself and got someone way better. While I appreciated the compliment, I asked her, "Are you really so hung up on him that you're gonna make our wedding about him?" Honestly, once I said it, it was like someone else told me. I didn't even realize what I was saying and I didn't even understand it until I said it. I told her that she shouldn't bother to invite him because we weren't getting married anymore. She was stunned and eventually apologized and told me to forget about her ex. I felt angry and almost told her she was the one who needed to forget about him. I don't know. She spent the day telling me that she's sorry for bringing it up. I'll be honest, I'm even reconsidering the entire relationship now. Well, Peeb, I don't think you're the a-hole. I definitely think your fiance is not ready to get married if she's still hung up on somebody so much so that she just wants to rub her current life in his face because he said she couldn't do better. He is definitely living rent-free in her head. So in my opinion, appropriate responses to this kind of problem would be from postponing the wedding to canceling the whole thing. If I was in your shoes, I would sit down with her to properly understand the kind of problem that she has with this, and she needs to get help to get over it, because living your life to spite an ex, it is definitely not a healthy way to live. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's check out the community comments. GTS 2022 says, not the a-hole. She let you know she's not over her ex yet. That's why she wants to exhibit you to him like a prize or a trophy. What does she expect to happen after that? Does she intend him to come to her regretting he lost her, but now he's a different person and things could work between them? Did she make her marriage about him for no reason? She didn't even consider it would be your marriage too. You did the right thing by reconsidering your relationship. She's not ready to marry, at least not with you. There should not be a third person in her mind when planning such an important step. Alice Shia says, not the a-hole for calling off the wedding. If her fixation on her ex raised serious doubts about the relationship, the fact that she wanted to invite him to shove it in his face shows that she's still emotionally tied to proving something to him. Recent Lion 8614 says, not the a-hole. You are very much justified to want to reflect as the wedding is no longer about the you and her. It seems like she wants to prove a point that she did better. I think you have to open up a line of communication. And Lovely Cassandra says, you're not the a-hole for feeling uncomfortable with your fiancé wanting to invite her ex. It's your wedding, and it's okay to want it to be about celebrating your love with the people who support you, not about proving something to someone from the past. It's great that she apologized, but it's also important to address the underlying issue of her still seeming to be hung up on her ex. Open and honest communication is crucial for a healthy relationship. So, the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole, that he did the right thing, and that he should try to talk to her. So, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. So, we are going to try some premarital counseling first. Our wedding has gone from being called off to being postponed indefinitely. We hadn't sent the invitations yet. My fiancé tried to explain why she wanted to invite her ex, but not only did she keep changing her answers, each one made it way worse for me. First, she tried to explain that she just wanted some payback. I told her, and if he doesn't care, are you gonna rub in his face our first child, our first home? She said she didn't mean it that way and she just wanted to prove her worth, which I then told her that I guess her ex is the only one who can determine her worth. We kept going like this for a while and there wasn't a single answer she gave that didn't boil down to she cares what her ex thinks and apparently she can't be happy unless her ex felt some sort of way. She denied it, but honestly, I find it hard to believe her. I don't want our marriage to be only worth something if her ex is the only one who can determine it. I refuse to be with someone whose happiness revolves around their ex's feelings. So I decided to at least try some counseling. We have been together for years now. FYI, she was with her ex for about 2 years. 3 years later, she met me and we have been together for 4. I figured I should try. It's kind of hard to be hopeful after listening to my potential wife say she cares about what her ex thinks in like 10 different ways, but at least I can say I tried. Well, OP, I agree with you. It's hard to be hopeful, but at least you're giving it a try, and if it doesn't work out, you can put it behind you without any what-ifs. So on that note, here's wishing you the best in the future. Take care, OP, and thanks for sharing. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user GeorgeTGWTBN, Dead Compliant. Some months after my mom sold up and downsized, I got a letter from a debt collection agency saying I owed them £134 and some pence including interests and fees. I had no idea what this was for, so I phoned them. It was for the broadband service at my mom's old house, now sold, which had been cancelled a short time before she moved along with the attached phone line. I explained that there must have been a mistake as the phone line and broadband were all in one package and I had cancelled it, all together at the same time since the house was sold. The query went back to the supplier. They called me and said they had been unable to cancel the broadband part of the service because the cancellation had not come in from the account holder. But I was the account holder. They said no, the account holder is Mr., my father's name. I explained that there really must have been a mix-up as he had died a few years earlier and I took over control of the telephone line and broadband account. paying that single bill for my mother along with some other regular bills since she no longer had my father's income to cover things. They insisted that they had to speak with the account holder and could no longer speak with me on the matter and refused to speak with me again. They're gonna need a Ouija board. Despite all the collection letters and threats of legal action being taken against me, not my deceased dad, they wouldn't take no for an answer. So I drove to his grave, phoned them up and said, "Account holder is here. You can speak to him if you want." I left the mobile by the gravestone while I wandered around the quiet and pretty churchyard. I heard some irate voices at the end of the line, so picked up the phone and asked if they had any joy speaking with the account holder. An angry voice asked what was going on, so I explained where I was and that I'd love to know if my dad had said anything to them since I had been unable to reach him under 6 feet of churchyard dirt since we buried him a couple of years earlier. Silence at the end of the phone. I was passed to a manager who apologized profusely and said they sorted all out at their end. A month or so later, the debt collection agency sent me a letter saying the matter had been resolved with no balance owing. Well, Opie, they wanted to talk to your dad. You just put him in touch with him. The fact he wasn't replying wasn't your fault. Thanks for sharing, Opie. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.